What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Word on Woodward, presented by Rehmann. Empower your purpose with Rehmann. I'm Daniela Bruce, soon to be joined by Art Regner and Carly Johnston. We've got some great guests for you guys today. We'll be joined by Ken Kal shortly. We've got interviews with Red Wings defenseman Jon Merrill, Detroit News, Chris McCoskey on the Tigers' new hire, the Freeps, Helene St. James on the Red Wings, and MLB Network's John Marosi will be joining us live later in the show. I also want to wish you all a happy Tuesday, along with a happy election day. If you haven't already, make sure you are getting out to the polls to cast your vote. It's very important that you do. And I know my co-host, Art Regner, has already casted his.
Yes, I have there, Daniela. I cast the voted absentee. I used to be a poll worker many years ago, like a precinct captain. So it's a pretty exciting day. And, as long as everybody exercises their constitutional right and votes and everyone stays kind of cool, calm, and collected, it's a great day. It's a great day. A lot of people have gone onto the battlefield, shall we say, really on the battlefield to ensure that we're able to exercise this right. So I encourage everybody who's old enough, 18 and plus, to go out and cast your ballot today.
I've got my sticker on. You can see it, kind of. It's blocked. I went this morning. I do want to say that if there is anybody out there having a little bit of election day anxiety and with COVID and everything, going out to the polls, it was very safe. It was very quick and everything was smooth. So make sure you are getting out there. And with that being said, Art, we've got some big news in the sports world, Red Wings and Tigers. So we're going to get into the big three presented by Chevy. And first of all, the Tigers made a big hire over the weekend. AJ Hinch was named the Tigers manager. And I think everybody is really excited about this hire, Art. He joined a Zoom press conference right after he was announced as the Tigers manager. And he had a lot of really great things to say. But I did want to point out one specific thing that he said. Here is his answer to why this job was so intriguing to him.
We had a lot of success in my last stop, and we won a lot of games. And this is a little bit of a different job because of where this organization's at. But one of the things that stood out for me in the interview process is how Al continued to talk about, we're past the rebuild stage, we're getting into the building stage, and we're going to start to get into the fun pretty soon. And I have a player development background. It's where I got into the front office to begin with. When I got into my first manager chair, it was a pretty young team that was developing. Went over to Houston, had a developing team. It's something I'm passionate about because I love players.
So he seems to be really passionate about the player development side of things. And I really like that he said Al Avila told him, we're getting past this rebuild stage and we're going to be in the building stage. He went on to say there, he being AJ Hinch, that he knows what the situation here is in Detroit, and he knows what they have in the prospect system, what they have for young pitchers. And obviously he's probably talking about guys like Spencer Torkelson and Riley Green as well. Art, what did you think of the hire and what AJ Hinch had to say during his press conference?
Well, I think if you look at it, maybe Brad Ausmus, although Brad Ausmus always was the smartest guy in the room, so I'm not so sure where he was about analytics, but I think this is the first new school manager pardon me, I almost said the Lions, bite my tongue, that the Tigers have hired. He's really into analytics. The Tigers analytic department has really been beefed up the last couple of years. And AJ Hinch gets that. He understands it. He knows that. And I think that it's really a good marriage on all fronts. Houston was a developing team. They might have been a little bit further along than the Tigers. So he knows what he's getting into. He played here before. He's obviously knows this area a little bit, knows the passion the Tiger fans have. So I like this hire. I really, really do. The Tigers kind of lucked into it a little bit. Jerry Reinsdorf really wanted Tony La Russa at, 77 or 76 years old, which is fine. The older I get, hey, the guy can get a preem job at 76. That's good for you. So I really think that this should work. This should work. I know we're going to talk to Chris McCoskey a little bit later, but it was curious. This hire was curious, at least from my aspect, from, is this the guy that's going to eventually take the Tigers to where they want to be, World Series champions, or will it be a bridge manager? And obviously he's not a bridge manager. He's here for the long term. And I definitely think it's going to work. You know, they're going to have to get past the cheating scandal. I mean, since this has happened, I'm a little bit surprised because, you know, AJ Hinch has owned it, has apologized about it. But there's a lot of people that are really, really angry about this, and they're not letting it go. And so it'll be interesting to see how that develops. But what I like most about what AJ Hinch said about that was, you know, again, he took full responsibility. One of the very few in the Astros organization who did. And then he said, but this isn't about the Tigers. This isn't about my players. This isn't about them. It's about me trying to deflect anything because, as you know, this is probably something that's going to be at least around at the beginning of the season for AJ Hinch, something he's going to have to address quite a bit. He just doesn't want it to affect his team. And he took full ownership about it and said, this isn't a Tiger issue. This is my issue. So, you know, I think from that aspect, again, pretty stand-up guy. I was pretty impressed. I think it's a good hire. You know, I really do. You know, I'm not a big fan of the Astros. I don't think that they should be World Series champions. I've made that clear on this show. They should vacate that title. It was wrong. It's not right. It sends a poor message. You know, about sportsmanship and morality. I don't want to get into it, especially on election day. But I just want to say that, you know, but overall, everybody deserves a second chance. He seemed to have learned his lesson. Let's move forward. And moving forward it means it's going to be a pretty darn good hire for the Tigers, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, like you said, Art, I think his exact quote was, this isn't part of the Tiger story. This is a part of my story. So I am excited to see what he does with this new beginning for him. And hopefully he takes the Tigers to that World Series title. Like you said, Art, we will talk more about the AJ Hinch hire with Chris McCoskey later in the show. Right now, we're going to move on to our second topic of the big three. Some breaking news, if you will. This just happened. The Red Wings have signed Anthony Mantha to a four-year deal, at $5.7 million a year. Art, we've been waiting for this. We knew it was going to happen. What do you think of the final deal, the numbers, the length of the deal, and what Anthony Mantha is receiving?
Woo, woo! The Express, baby! The BT Express! He's ready to roll out and go! Woo! I love this deal. Yeah, I think it's a fair deal. You know, he's 26 years old, 5.7. You know, like we speculated about, he's the second highest paid player, I believe, right behind Dylan Larkin. You know, he and Larkin are the only players I think signed after next year that are under contract to the Red Wings, except for Thomas Greiss, I guess the goaltender too. So I think this is a great deal. You know, obviously Steve has said that he only wants to sign guys to 1 or 2 year deals. He's been pretty successful. Obviously, it shows you exactly what he thinks of Anthony Mantha. I really want to go back to a couple of years ago at the World Championships for Team Canada, where he was just a stud, a prolific goal scorer. You know, I guess, you know, we always knew that he was Big Tony. We always knew he's the BT Express, but that was kind of his coming out party because he was, you know, he had on the maple leaf and all those Canadian scribes. Suddenly, he was their best player. He was a legitimate goal scorer. You saw his talent really come to the forefront. And so I think he emerged at that point. Now, if he stays healthy, I think this is a good deal. I think it's a fair deal. He's only going to be 40. If he continues, I think he's at least a 40-goal scorer consistently in this league if he stays healthy. I think he will. He's a little bit older now. He's going to mellow out a little bit, but he's still going to be the Express. I love this deal. I love it. I love the term. You know, I don't begrudge anybody the money that they make. And I also think it's going to be pretty good incentive for Tyler Bertuzzi, who sees exactly what BT got, you know, and you know, and his line mate. And so I think, you know, so Tyler said that he always plays like it's a 1 year deal. Well, when he saw this 4 year deal that Mantha got, I think that Tyler, and he's always motivated, but I think that that's a nice little, you know, he knows what the pot of gold at the end of the Red Wing rainbow looks like for him now, based on what Larkin's making and what Mantha's making. He's their line mate. boom, he can situate himself right into that, rarefied air of, getting a nice chunk of change.
Art, were you at all surprised at the 4-year mark? I know Steve Yzerman had stressed that he does want to do short-term deals just because of the state of the Red Wings right now, or did you always expect that Anthony Mantha was an exception to that case?
I knew Mantha was going to be signed long-term. I think Steve, and again, if you want to know what their philosophy is, even though he wasn't part of that deal, but I don't think Yzerman wants to give anything more than a 5-year deal, max. And a guy like Dylan Larkin deserves a 5-year deal, a guy that we all expect to eventually be wearing the C here, hopefully in a couple of months. So no, I think that you take care of your homegrown talent, players that you like. You want to send a message within your organization too. Sure, when the Red Wings are on the verge, as we've said about, when they're on the verge to really contend, Steve will go out and sign guys long term, but at this point, because you have a young team, a rebuilding team, and you have a lot of high-end prospects, I think the best thing to do is to sign your homegrown talent to long-term deals. Sign them. That's incentive for Lucas Rehmann, for Michael Rasmussen, for Joe Veleno. We can go on and on and on and name them. That is good for them, where they know, hey, if I perform, Steve is more than willing to pay me, sign me long-term, and give me a fair deal. And this is a fair deal. This is a good, fair deal. Maybe Mantha could have held out shorter term, more money, but overall 4 years, 5.7. I don't think the BT Express is complaining too much right now.
No, I don't think he is either, Art. And with that, we are going to wrap that up and move on to our third topic of the big three. And for this one, you knew this was coming, Art. I'm bringing in Carly because we've got the 2 Spartan grads and the 1 U of M grad here, and Michigan State with a huge victory. So Carly and I are going to have 3 minutes just to rip on you a little bit, Art. So we'll start that 3 minutes now. And Carly, why don't you go first?
Dang Nebraska hat on the banks of the Red Sea. There, the school that's home to us. Come on, Art, join in.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? My team didn't even play. It's a big red. I'm Nebraska. Wait. There we go. This N stands for Nebraska. Wow, it's hot. Okay, first of all, I got to get rid of that thing. Hey, congratulations. I texted Daniela very early in that game. Michigan had no energy, no nothing. I think it was the perfect storm. I think that the week before, everything went Michigan's way. And I do think, at least early on, until they get used to playing it, I think the road team has an advantage because there's no fans there, especially in college football. Wait. Just hear me out. Hear me out, and then just let me say 2 things that I think happened in that game.
Go.
No. I just think Michigan's DBs that are very young were taken out of that game early. They were afraid to even touch an MSU receiver at all. And secondly, the week before, State lost to Rutgers, and everybody just kind of, dropped their drawers and spewed all over them. Right. And Michigan, I think, was overconfident. Everyone's patting Michigan on the bench, back, and saying, you're doing great. Michigan runs out into that big, huge bowl in the ground to 615 fans. So I just think State was better. They deserved to win. They didn't turn the ball over. Rocky Lombardi may never play a better game than he played then, or else he'll get better. So congratulations to them. Truly, congratulations. What can I say? They deserve to win that game.
I mean, it wasn't a big blowout. It was a good game. It was a close game. The Spartans.
It usually never is when State wins. Like the year before Michigan won 44-10. So I mean, Michigan usually, if Michigan's going to win, they're going to win pretty big. State wins close games.
This year we won. That is just such a Michigan fan thing to do.
Yeah, he's muted. We muted you. That's right. Be quiet, because you know what?
He sore loser.
Yeah, that is really Yeah, it's bad. I mean, I really don't even have much to say about it except for the fact that I think every single person expected Michigan. What were they? A 24-point favorite?
20
That's
something,
ridiculous. And then they
I know.
lost at home.
Look at him
Oh,
trying to
yeah.
talk right now.
He's
He's
muted.
This is great. Shut up, Brad. This is good.
Oh, I love it. Go green. That's all I have to say.
All week long, you were told that you were terrible. You're a big underdog. You go into a stadium. I mean, it was perfect. It was a perfect storm for them. I mean, and Michigan didn't show up.
Yeah,
Michigan did not show up in that game. It's disappointing.
It would be,
but Michigan State deserved to win
for sure.
All right, I'll wrap that up with a go green, and that does it for our big three today. A big thank you to Chevy Cares. That is why Chevy Clean dealers are committed to using enhanced vehicle cleaning measures with CDC-approved cleansers before delivering your vehicle after purchase or service. So when you're ready, you can find new roads with confidence. And now it's time to bring on our first guest of the day and get into the mailbag delivered to you by Little Caesars. Today's guest is Red Wings radio play-by-play announcer Ken Kal. Ken, Anthony Mantha is officially signed a 4-year deal at $5.7 million. Give us your initial reaction.
Well, first, before I mention that, I got to say that's pretty bad on the engineer's part to cut Art's mic. You got to let him talk. I mean, come on, he's got to vent a little bit, right?
Ken, you know very well that Carly and I would have had no chance to speak if we didn't do it.
All right, let's talk a little bit about Anthony Mantha. Anthony knew that
I'm ready to walk out.
Don't do that, Art. Anthony Mantha knew that he was going to get a deal done. He was never worried about getting a deal done. I think in his eyes and his agent's eyes, he knew the number that he was going to be at, especially not really playing even a half a year. So he knew the number he was going to go in with. And I think it's a great deal. And as Art mentioned, it's a fair deal. It's a fair deal for the organization. It's a fair deal for Anthony Mantha. I'm a little bit surprised that it was a 4-year deal. I thought maybe he'd sign like a 2-year deal and then really make the big boatload of money in his next deal and get a longer term deal as well. But I just think it's good. You know that Anthony Mantha is one of the top 3 or 4 players on this Red Wing team. He's got a lot of potential. If he can only stay healthy, that'll be the key. If he stays healthy, I agree with Art. I think he's going to be a 40-goal scorer in due time, and he's just a big part of this Red Wing team. So congratulations to Anthony Mantha, all his fans. And again, I think it's a really good deal for the Red Wings and for Anthony Mantha as well. A fair deal.
And of course, we're all excited to see Anthony Mantha officially back in a Red Wings uniform. We knew it was going to happen, but it's great to see it official. Now, Ken, we're going to move on to your first actual mailbag question. And this one is from Brady from Owasso. And he asked, today marks the day the Wings first called up Bob Probert. Ken, what is your favorite Proby moment?
Well, there's so many of them. When the Bruce brothers were on the ice together and, you knew something was going to happen out there. Obviously, he was a pretty good hockey player. We always talk about him fighting, and, we see him fighting Ty Domi right there. And to me, that was one of the biggest brawls I think you'd ever see those two teams. Domi absorbed a lot of punches. In fact, I heard in that particular fight at Madison Square Garden, Domi couldn't put his helmet back on because he had his lumps on his head from Probert's right hand. He couldn't get his helmet on, so that was a really big fight. But the fight that I remember the most, actually there are 2 of them, I guess, but the one I remember is when Kevin McGuire attacked Steve Yzerman. It was at Joe Louis Arena, and it was a mismatch. He just grabbed on to Yzerman and just wailed and pummeled him. And Yzerman, you got to give him credit because he stood tall and he took a few shots, but he also delivered a couple of shots too. But then there was Bob Probert who came in, and he was just looking. He was waiting to get an opportunity to get in there and throw a couple of right hands while McGuire, Barrasso, the goaltender of the Sabres, came in, and Probert was ready to deck him. And I think Barrasso's smarter than we all thought. He just skated away from the fray. And then you see the linesman trying to separate Probert. Probert's like skating around. Finally, Probert jumps on his knees and just lands 2 or 3 bombs to the head of Kevin McGuire. So that was one of the big fights that I always remember. And I was at the game at Joe Louis Arena. And of course, I remember when Probert and Joe Kocur when they fought the first time too. And there was a lot of mutual respect between those two. And everyone always thought, well, if they ever had an opportunity to fight, who would win? And I don't think there was any winner. I think it was a draw, but both of those two really duked it out a couple of times when Probert was a member of the Blackhawks, and the Red Wings obviously had Joey Kocur on their side.
Ken, I just noticed, did you wear red, white, and blue today on purpose?
I did.
Look
And you know what? I was waiting for you to ask me that because I got my American flag here too. Yeah. And I just want to tell everybody, get out there and vote. Don't stay at home. Get out there to the polls if you haven't voted, and get out there and place your vote.
Well, if you weren't convinced to get out and vote before, now you are, because Ken Kal just told you to. So you definitely need to get out there. Art, we're going to go to question number 2 for you. And this one is from John from Grand Blanc. And he asks, the MLB awards are next week, and in the race for the AL MVP is free agent hometown kid DJ LeMahieu. Is DJ the front runner?
I would say he is. I just want to go back quickly to that Probert story about fighting Kocur. Probert did not want to fight him. He did not want to fight him. Joey goaded him into fighting, and as they were like rolling around on the ice, Kocur said to him, hey, thanks for getting me back in the league, because it's a long story. I actually wrote about this in DetroitRedWings.com, but make a long story short, he wanted to fight because Kocur at that time thought the Red Wings brought him back to fight Kocur, or to fight Proby. So that's why Proby and him fought. And then years later, they were writing their Bruce Brothers book, and he told that story. And Probert looks over at him and goes, "You MFer, I thought that." I was wondering why you wanted to fight me. What was that all about? But it was actually almost out of respect to Probert. He wanted that fight to happen so he could thank him and get him back in the ice. It's a wonderful story. It truly is. And first of all, I think Ken was being kind to Stevie there. Stevie's barrages, I'm sure McGuire got a good verbal assault. I'm not so sure if it was a physical assault, because Steve can cut you with his words. But anyway, DJ LeMahieu, yes, he should be the front runner, not only because he's from Michigan and he's like Brad Galley's best friend or something. I think because he's a Yankee. And I think the season that he had, DJ LeMahieu is kind of a late bloomer. And I think he's one of those guys that, deserves it. Our executive producer, Mark Milligan, pointed this out. He has a really good shot because a guy named Mike Trout isn't part of it. And so, maybe it's Abreu from the White Sox. I'm not sure if you see how it's all going to play out. But is DJ LeMahieu the front runner? He led the league in hitting. I think he is. I really, really think he is. I just can't see, playing in New York really, really helps you because it's such a high profile job. Now, I know the Yankees have a lot of players that hate them, but I think all media members are all, the Yankees, or, we get Yankees up to here. But I think that playing in that market, Ken knows how it is. Anybody that goes there, it is a pressure cooker. And for him to do what he's been able to do in a Yankee uniform, I think, yes, he is and should be the MVP front runner. Brad Galley, that's for you, buddy.
Ken, we will move on to question number 3, which is your question. Jake from Farmington Hills asks, the Hockey Hall of Fame announced no 2021 class this year. Looking at the new candidate, saw Hank would be on the ballot for the next class. Any chance that he could make the Hall of Fame? Hank being Henrik Zetterberg. Wow, I really stumbled over that one. Sorry, Ken.
Woo! That's okay. You know what? Henrik Zetterberg eventually is going to make the Hall of Fame, I believe. I'm not so sure he'll make it on the first run. There's so many people out there that deserve to be in the Hockey Hall of Fame, but no question about it. When Zetterberg was here with Detroit, he was one of the best two-way centers. Whenever you wanted to shut another team's opposing best player down, it was always Henrik Zetterberg who was matched up. And that was evident, especially in the 2008 and 2009 Stanley Cup Finals, when Zetterberg went head-to-head with Sidney Crosby and really did a good job in slowing him down. Henrik Zetterberg's going to make it one day. But again, I think on the Red Wing front, there are two players that should be able to get in, and I hope that they get in before Henrik Zetterberg, and that's Chris Osgood, who we see in goal right there as he was trying to stop Crosby. And the other one is Pat Verbeek. Verbeek scored over 500 goals in his career. He's the assistant general manager for the Red Wings right now, as we all know. But those two players right there, I think, deserve to get in before Henrik Zetterberg. But down the road, I believe Henrik will be a great candidate, and I think he'll be voted in. And I think maybe even Pavel Datsyuk down the road will be put on the ballot as well.
All right, Art, before I move on, do you have any quick comment?
Very quickly, I thought that Zetterberg would eventually be a shoo-in, but that is a major topic of conversation. It's almost reached the level, is Chris Osgood a Hall of Famer or not? I think, and Ken just said it, if you want to know if Henrik Zetterberg is a Hall of Fame hockey player or not, just ask Sid the Kid Crosby, Canada's golden boy, because I think he would tell you without a question Henrik Zetterberg deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. No doubt, and let's face it, Pat Verbeek should be in the Hall of Fame just because his nickname alone is Hall of Fame worthy. Not many players can live up to the nickname of Little Ball of Hate. Excellent. Verbeek needs to be there, and of course, Ozzy should be there too.
All right. I knew you had something to say about that one. So thank you, Art. Thank you for that one. And thank you for making it quick because I know you have a lot to say on it. But now we're going to get to the fourth and final mailbag question. And this is actually really interesting. So you guys have to check this out. This is from James from Toledo, and he wants to know what you guys make of this. All right. So we're going to see here a goal goes to celebrate and flips over the board, breaking the glass. Now he is okay, as you can see, so we can have a little fun with this one. Did that totally ruin the celebration, or was that just like an added effect? What do you guys think?
I'll tell you what, the best thing about this clip is that he goes head over heels and ends up on the cement floor. And if they keep rolling the video, there's a teammate that comes in and he's bent over and you can just see he's laughing like crazy, right? No one ever thinks that glass is going to break. You'd think it would come off the stanchions, but I mean, to shatter like that is probably unheard of. It never happens, but it happened to this guy right there. But, that is one of the most interesting and funny things I've seen in the game of hockey. And everyone likes to celebrate. You see a lot of times, I remember Patrick Kane, he always likes to bounce against the glass like that. But I think right now, after seeing that, I don't think he's going to be doing that in Chicago. So, yeah, it was a funny clip, and that was an interesting celebration, no doubt.
It's funny because
first of all,
he tried to do it almost. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I want to say it was a clean hit. It wasn't a headshot. He led with his shoulder, and he went right into the glass. Listen, I have a little bit of empathy because I know what it means to unintentionally wipe out in an arena in front of hockey players. Ken knows this happened in Vancouver in 2002. we were walking down. And the Red Wings were on the ice. they were like shooting on the goalie or Dom or whatever, but the whole team was on that side of the ice. And I jumped down to, from behind the net there from the stands, and I started to slip, and I did one of these things, and I wiped right out, unplanned. Ken, of course, was laughing. I think a couple of the players, I know they were laughing and tapping their sticks on the ice like Great Fall and all that. So I have a little bit of empathy for, an unexpected wipeout in an arena. But yeah, I thought it was hilarious, but you're right. I don't know what he expected. He led with his shoulder. I'm sure like the joke around the room was that this is the best body check he ever gave in his life, It was perfect. Thank God he wasn't hurt, because he could have landed on his shoulder or his head, but that's pretty funny. But like I said, I've been down this road, never scoring a goal or anything like that, but I've wiped out in front of a bunch of hockey players before, and it's a little bit embarrassing.
I wish we had the footage of that one. I mean, that footage is funny, but I'd rather see you taking a tumble.
I was there. I saw it. The thing is, back then, Art had a bad knee too, and I was a little concerned as he went down. I was concerned about his knee, and I'm thinking like, oh no, I'm going to have to take him to the hospital, and he's going to have to get that knee worked on. But he toughed it out. He had a sore knee. We went out for dinner that night, I believe, and we had a few drinks too, and he had the ice bag on his knee, so he was okay. So he played hurt, and I give him a lot of credit for that.
Yeah,
Great work.
thank you. You know what? You know what that Vancouver trip did for me is that there's a brewery in Canada, a small independent brewery in Guelph, and Ken and I met this guy from Detroit who married a lady from Vancouver, and we went into his hotel room. Remember, Ken, for dinner, and he had his whole bathtub was full of ice. I don't know because I can't say the beer, but remember that, Kenny? I mean, I couldn't believe it. It was like, for Ken and I, it was like we walked into heaven, We look, here's a bathtub. I mean, a complete bathtub full of ice and bottled beer. It was worth it. It was that Vancouver trip. There was a lot of fun there. Obviously Nick's goal at center ice. Dan Cloutier was never the same goalie after that. That was just a wonderful, wonderful 2002. That Vancouver trip was great. We had a couple of days off in between too. So Vancouver, beautiful city.
Well, I'm glad you guys were able to reminisce a little bit there. And just want to let you know, if you want to reminisce a little more, Fox Sports Detroit is running some classic Red Wings games. Again, they'll be running the 97 Stanley Cup Series very soon. And also, you guys were a part of the draft review show, which will be running on Fox Sports Detroit a few more times as well. And Steve Yzerman joined you guys just to talk about what the Red Wings were able to do in the draft. So it's very exciting, and you can check that out on Fox Sports Detroit. And you saw Ken waving his flag. Ken, remind the fans one more time, what's the message today, the most important message?
The message, Danielle and Art, get out there, get to the polls, vote. Even if you have to wait hours in line, get your vote in, because every vote counts. Be American.
That's right. Thank you, Ken. It's always great to talk to you. And a big thank you to Little Caesars for delivering the mailbag right here on the Word on Woodward. Little Caesars proudly introduces their hot and ready pepperoni cheeser. You get a large pizza topped with classic pepperoni, fresh mozzarella, and a toasted Parmesan and Asiago cheese crust for just $7. Try our no-contact pizza portal or delivery from Little Caesars today. You guys, we still have a lot of great stuff coming up for you in today's show. We'll be joined by Detroit News' Chris McCoskey to talk some more Tigers and their new hire at manager. And we will have the Free Press's Helene St. James join us to talk some more Red Wings. And later in the show, MLB Network's John Marosi will join us live to talk to Art about everything that's going on in Major League Baseball. And of course, we'll focus on the Tigers' new manager hire. But right now, we're going to catch up with Carly.
That's right. It's time for Catching Up with Carly, presented by Meyer. And today I'm pleased to be joined by new Red Wing, John Merrill. How's it going, John?
Going great. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Very cool. Very cool. Happy to have you. And it's been a bit of a full circle moment for you here. Let's start with how you got to where you're at today. You played on the Little Caesars minor hockey team. That's pretty cool. And then now you're playing for the Red Wings. But before you got here, it was a bit of a long path. First, you started at the University of Michigan playing for them. How does it feel to finally be on your hometown team, if you will?
It's a dream come true. You said it. Grew up playing for Little Caesars, and I'm going down to Joe Louis Arena once a week, it felt like, to practice or to catch a Wings game. And obviously a kid growing up in the 90s in Michigan, there was a lot of success with the Detroit Red Wings organization. So I was a huge fan, and I'm just so fortunate that my career has led me to this point now, and to have an opportunity to play for my childhood team is I'm so grateful.
Absolutely. And was this a dream of yours growing up to play for the Detroit Red Wings? I mean, the odds are pretty slim.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I mean, I was in a Wings jersey since I could walk, and you know, in the driveway, replaying visions of yourself playing for the Wings someday. So it's definitely a lifelong dream, and I'm so happy about it.
We touched a bit on your journey back to Detroit. A very cool one. After spending 6 seasons in the Devils organization, you were selected in the NHL expansion draft by the Vegas Golden Knights, and you spent 3 seasons there. What has this whole experience in the league been like for you?
Yeah, again, another dream come true to play in the NHL, but it's been full of excitement, fun hockey, great teammates, great coaches, great people you meet along the way. It's been a dream come true, and again, just I can't say how fortunate I am to be given the opportunity to play in the NHL. It's the best job in the world, and hopefully we can get to work sometime soon and figure out when we're playing again.
Yes. And each year you were with the Knights, as we were previously talking about. The team made it to the playoffs. How does playoff hockey differ from regular season games?
Obviously, the intensity goes up a little bit in the playoffs, and it's anyone's cup to win. Once you get in, it's anyone's cup to win. So I think everybody feels that desperation for the cup, and everything's amped up a little bit. The physicality, the pace of the game goes up a bit. It's just it's the best time of year to play hockey, and that's what it's all about, playing for the cup.
Yes, and well, we're hoping you can bring some of that playoff luck to Detroit. Speaking of the playoffs, this year's looked a little different playing in the bubble, if you will. How hard was it to adapt to that?
You know what? It definitely wasn't something we were used to, so there was an adjustment period. But I think we were all able to kind of take a step back when we were in the bubble and understand that it's really not that bad. And the NHL did an incredible job of putting on that bubble situation, and we felt safe the entire time. Obviously, there wasn't a ton to get up to, but then you get to know your teammates really well. So we spent a lot of time together as a team, playing cards and sitting around and like I said, watching movies and just doing a lot of nothing actually. But it was a good time all together.
Good way of looking at it. And a very, very sweet moment that I saw with your family was you coming home to your daughters after the Knights were eliminated. How awesome was that moment to spend with your 3 daughters?
It was incredible. Obviously, that was the most difficult part for all of us that had families, was just to be away and to know mom's at home alone with all 3 of them, and there was nothing I could do. So, FaceTime, you can only discipline so much from FaceTime or tell them to stay out of trouble. But to come home and to see them, it was, again, it puts things into perspective, and you realize that's what's really important, and family. So, yeah, that was a really special moment.
Yeah, shout out to Mom for holding down the fort while you were away.
Yeah, big shout out to her. She's a saint.
Absolutely. Moms are superheroes. But we touched on your time at U of M, where you actually played with Luke Glendening, another Michigan guy on the Red Wings. Do you think that will help your transition to this team, kind of having a little bit of an in and knowing a teammate?
Of course, yeah. It's definitely, it eases my mind a little bit knowing that Luke's going to be there, somebody that I'm familiar with. But still got a little bit of those new team jitters. I can't wait to get out there and meet all the players and the staff and trainers, coaches, everybody that's involved with the day-to-day, and hoping to get out there soon to start working with the boys and getting familiar and getting things going here.
Speaking about getting out there, what have you been doing in the meantime to stay ready for when the season does happen?
Yeah, it's been a weird situation. I mean, since the season paused in March there, we didn't know when we were going to come back or what. So we kind of had to figure out ways to work out at home. And obviously, gyms weren't open, the facilities weren't open. So we were training to win a Stanley Cup in Vegas. So we were over preparing ourselves to be ready whenever the season did come back. So I got kind of accustomed to working out from home and working out sort of untraditionally. So after the season ended, we come back here to Denver, which is where we spend our off seasons in Colorado. And so been doing a lot of the same, working out in my home, and then I've got a pretty good skate with some of the other pro guys who live here in Denver. We skate a few days a week.
Awesome. And now you have this opportunity to play for the Red Wings. Looking forward to next season. What are you hoping to accomplish and bring to this team?
I just hope we can get better every day. I know, like I said, I don't know too many of the players in the team. I didn't watch the team too closely much last year, other than when I played against them. But my goal coming in is to just come in and be somebody who's a positive influence every day, someone that comes in with a smile, and like I said, look to get better every single day in whatever way we can.
Love it. Can't wait. Well, fingers crossed that the season starts January 1st, as Commissioner Bettman stated. Until then, John, I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you once again. Thanks for joining me on Catching Up with Carly, presented by Meyer. Daniela, back to you.
Thank you, Carly and John. And Carly, you're going to have to stick around because it's time for Bet You Didn't Know, presented by PointsBet Sportsbook, an official gaming partner of the Detroit Tigers. And today, we're going to talk about the Tigers' new manager. The Tigers named AJ Hinch their manager on Friday. So we're going to mention a few things that we bet you didn't know about AJ Hinch. Art, what do you have for us today?
I see what you did there.
Well, AJ Hinch was a catcher in Major League Baseball. And what's really interesting, and it almost reminds me, there was a time in the NHL as well where goaltenders were managers or coaches, I guess I should say, that they ran the team. They were very, very good. There's very successful coaches that transitioned into, our goalies transitioned to coach. The same can be held true for catchers. A 9 out of the 29 current managers, because Boston is open, have caught. AJ Hinch is one of those guys. And he is also the Tigers have had 39 managers. 11 of them have been catchers, including Jim Leyland, Mickey Cochran, Brad Ausmus, and the legendary Steve O'Neill, who I heard all kinds of stories about as I was growing up, about what a great manager he actually was. So there you have guys who have all, who were catchers. They won pennants, they won World Series. They were very good. Now, the reason I guess you've got to look at it, you got to think, well, why are catchers so good? And if you think about it, it's pretty easy. They spend a lot of time with the position players, in batting practice, getting to know them. The thing that I find interesting and why I brought in goaltenders into this, they see the whole field. They see everything that happens, much like a goalie sees the whole ice. The whole game is in front of them, I guess is what I'm saying, which is an advantage. As we know, catchers position the defense. They tell everybody where to go. They're always running out there doing whatever, how many outs there are or all that. So they have a very much a kind of a camaraderie with the field position players, even though technically they don't play in the field. I mean, they do. I mean, behind the plate, it's part of the field, but, they're not out there. They have to run to first and second. So they're very engaged. They're part of the whole game. The key, though, too, is that they handle the pitching staff. Mm-hmm. They work with the pitchers. When Austin Romine was here, what did we talk about ad nauseum, or at least I talked probably about it ad nauseum, was, how important it was going to be for him to handle, especially a young pitching staff with Casey Arthur Mize and Scooby, Tarek Skubal, and some of the other young arms. I mean, Soto was a young arm. I mean, this was a pretty young pitching staff. Sure, there were some veterans there, but it was very, very important. So, the catcher, he hangs out with the position players. He positions them defensive aligning, and he knows the pitching staff, and he handles pitchers. So he has a grasp of every aspect of the game. Aspect must be my new word today. I think I've said it about 8 times already. But I have. It's way too much. But thank you, Carly. But I'm just saying, if you really think about it, it makes sense that a catcher would end up being a manager if he wanted to stay in the game, because he is involved in everything from positional players, a defensive alignment, to handling a pitching staff, to knowing what the situation is, what the count is. He's always getting signs from the manager, what pitches to call, so he's got a rhythm of the game already, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So it makes and AJ Hinch is one of the best. He's one of the best at it. He understands analytics, as I said earlier. He's really into it. He's been down this road before with Houston, a little bit different situation, but still. So I just think it makes perfect sense that a catcher, not only for the Tigers, like we said, what was it, 11 out of 39 managers that the Tigers have been catchers, but 9 out of 29 right now. Perfect sense. AJ Hinch, a catcher. Of course he would be a catcher, right? If you look at it, Leland, Ausmus, and Hinch. So 3 out of the last 4 Tiger managers have been catchers.
Yeah. Well, we know that AJ Hinch definitely has some big shoes to fill, especially in Carly's world. So, Carly, how does Hinch stack up against your boy Gardy?
Well, obviously, there's no secret that Gardy was my favorite. So I'll be looking at how Hinch stacks up to Gardy. And in terms of wins and losses, Gardy has won more games than Hinch, has even managed in some, but that's an advantage to Gardy in terms of experience. However, throughout the season, we heard Gardy talking about going to the analytics group to get advice on who should be in the lineup to spark the offense. One of the reasons I love Gardy was his old school approach, but he was open to using the latest technology to help him make the best decision. And as Art mentioned, him being a former player, AJ understands the clubhouse and where the players are coming from. So that's another advantage. At the same time, the Astros wholeheartedly embraced advanced stats, so we're likely to see the same here in the Detroit Tigers organization with Hinch. This unique combination means we might not see a total change in how the team is managed on the field, which could be a good thing. And in 2019, Hinch's last season in Houston, the Astros used the shift the most in the American League, just under 50% of the time. So that's a fun fact. And last season, the Tigers led the AL in shifting, making the adjustment just over 50% of the time. And we know, I will so miss Gardy, but I'm definitely excited to welcome AJ to Detroit. It was very cool to be able to sit in on that press conference. Art's not even paying attention to me. Art.
He's not paying attention.
Art.
I'm just getting some breaking news about press conferences and things like that. So sorry about that.
Okay.
I can't break it though. I'm sworn to secrecy.
They're on the key, please. All right. Anyways, back to what I was saying. We know Gardy,
but it was captivating, Carly. Yeah, I'm a captive audience, Carly. Whatever you were saying, I love it.
Whatever you were saying, exactly. Well, what I was saying is I will definitely miss Gardy, but I'm excited to have AJ. Daniela, what do you find out about Hinch?
Well, Carly, that was really interesting about Hinch and Gardy. I did not know that. But going back to the press conference that you mentioned, I thought it was really interesting when Chris Ilitch took the podium, so to say. He mentioned Scotty Bowman, and he was talking about how the Tigers need a coach that has won before. And it's really hard to compare anybody to Scotty Bowman, who is a very decorated coach. And when he came to Detroit, he won 3 more Stanley Cups. So he definitely got the job done here. And looking back on the past 2 Tigers managers who came in with World Series championships, it was Jim Leyland and Sparky Anderson. So there's a high bar to set, but it does give you a sense of the quality of the manager that the Tigers are getting. So yeah, like you said, Carly, very excited. And yes, we all are going to miss Gardy. I have to add that in there too, but very exciting to have AJ Hinch joining us as the Tigers manager. And I think he really is going to help the Tigers take this organization to the next step, the next level. It's going to be a really exciting time as Tigers fans. And that wraps it up today, you guys, for Bet You Didn't Know, presented by PointsBet Sportsbooks. PointsBet Sportsbook. PointsBet is an official gaming partner of the Detroit Tigers. Download the app and follow PointsBet USA on social media for more information. And while we are on the topic of social media, let's toss it over to Carly to let us know what's going on in the social media world, really over the whole weekend. Carly, what do you got for us?
So this is going to be a little bit different. I usually show some posts that I've seen around social media. But today we have a very special video that we're going to premiere on Woodward with a Detroit Red Wing player and a very, very special Detroit Red Wings fan. Check it out.
What's up, Red Wings fans? Carly Johnston here, and today I'm joined by a very special guest. We have a super fan, Lucy Taylor, who's obviously a big fan of the Red Wings. Hi, Lucy. And we have Lucy's mom, Dawn, as well. Okay, Lucy, I have a couple questions for you. First, we're going to start off with, how old are you and what grade are you in?
I am 8 years old and I am currently in 3rd grade at Broad Elementary. So shout out to all my fellow Barth Bears.
Shout out, love it. Okay, so now let's hop into the Red Wings fan view. Okay, tell me why. Are you such a big Red Wings fan? I need to know. Did anyone in your family get you interested in hockey?
So my dad loves sports and he wanted me to watch hockey with him. So I did. And I ended up loving it. And I can probably say I'm a bigger fan than him. That's why he gave me his old Glasgow jersey from when he was a kid.
I love it. I can see it hanging up in the background. Okay, Dawn, I hear that Lucy has a pretty special relationship with one of the Detroit Red Wings players as well. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Lucy turned 5 and had a hockey birthday at Joe Louis. And the reason she did was because, unfortunately, nobody from her class could come to the birthday party that she had planned at our local pool. And she was a little bummed out because Danny DeKaiser wasn't on the ice that day. during practice. So he surprised her in the locker room, which I think a lot of people remember just how cute that meeting was. And ever since then, she just gained so much confidence from him just taking the time out to meet just with her, and became an even bigger fan of the Red Wings and Danny specifically from that day forward.
Yeah.
I love it. All right. Well, with that, Lucy, I believe we have a special guest on standby that is joining us today. Let's see if he'll pop in. Look who it is. It's Daniel St.
Hey, hey, Lucy, how are you? You're doing good. It's good to see you. It's been a weird summer, but it's nice to see some familiar faces.
So, Danny, the last time that you and Lucy met, Lucy said that your surgery from this past season inspired her to work hard and learn how to walk. How does that make you feel, knowing that you are such an inspiration to kids like Lucy?
Yeah, to be honest, after you told me that, Lucy, it kind of, gave me some motivation to work even harder. I know you're a fighter too, and there's a lot of awesome stuff that you do, and you try to take care of yourself on a daily basis, and you do a good job of that. So it was highly motivating for me when I heard that.
How has this friendship with Danny impacted Lucy?
So, as you mentioned before, Lucy has cerebral palsy, and she works really hard with like hours of physical therapy a week, and getting pretty regular injections in her legs just to keep herself mobile and to keep herself, out of her wheelchair. And when Danny had to work through an injury, it just and get back to like peak physical shape, it just kind of motivated her to see that that everybody can have these physical setbacks, and that the work that you put in is what is important. And so all summer she hasn't used her wheelchair. She's just in her crutches now. So only if I make her go in her wheelchair, if we're going to be doing something long distance. She still complains though. She just wants to be in her crutches so that she can walk.
That's awesome. That's great.
Amazing. That's very, very amazing. You guys are both an inspiration. And Lucy, a little off topic, but what's your dog's name? I hear you have a very interesting name for your dog.
My dog's name is De Kaiser.
Yeah, so your name gets yelled a lot at our house.
Yes.
Yeah, I see some of the photos behind you there too. I like those to see hanging on your wall behind you.
I love it. And Danny, the fun doesn't stop here. I know there's something else you want to tell Lucy.
Yeah, for sure. So I was very happy when I was able to get on this call with you, Lucy. But like I said, I know you're working really hard, and you're pushing yourself to be the best that you can be. But we have a Red Wings swag bag that we wanted to give you. We'll be sending it out in the mail in a few days, so you can be looking for that to show up at your doorstep one of these days. So thanks for taking the time to chat with us today.
Love it. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. It's been an absolute blast. Lucy, keep up the inspiration. So I really appreciate you talking with us today.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lucy. It was good chatting with you. Good hearing from you.
You too.
All right, take care. Can I get a little Red Wings out of you?
Go Red Wings. Yeah.
How sweet is that? I do remember seeing Lucy in the locker room throughout the season, and it's so awesome to see the friendship that she and Danny have formed over the years. Really excited to see Danny out on the ice next season, hopefully soon. So again, another amazing thing that community relations put together. Love to see it. Danny, Lucy, here's to you. Hope to see you guys healthy. Daniela, back to you.
Thank you, Carly. You did a great job with that as well. It was so cute. And like you said, it's just a really special bond that formed between Danny and Lucy. And I absolutely love that she named her dog De Kaiser. I love that.
I know. Well, boxer. I know you love the boxer.
I know. Yeah, you know I was going to love that as soon as I saw it. I have a boxer too. That's why. But yes, very cute. Great job with that, Carly. And you guys make sure you are sending in your questions for later in the show. Carly will join us for Let's Socialize. Use the hashtag word on Woodward, and she will be looking for them.
Absolutely. Thanks, Danielle.
Thank you, Carly. Guys, we've still got a lot coming up in today's show. We are going to be joined by Helene St. of the Detroit Free Press to talk about the Detroit Red Wings. And of course, John Marosi will be joining Art Live for the headliner later in the show. But right now, we're going to go to an interview with Chris McCoskey that Art and I did yesterday. Now we'll get into Brush Street Beat presented by McLaren Healthcare. Today's guest is Chris McCoskey, sports writer for the Detroit News. Chris, as always, it's great to see you. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, guys. Good to be here.
We've got some exciting Tigers news to talk about with AJ Hinch being named the new Tigers manager. Chris, just give me your initial reaction to the hire.
Oh, it's a coup. It's a coup for them because under normal circumstances, if there were more teams, more contending teams who needed a manager, or if, a lot of other factors could have happened that they wouldn't have got them. They just where they are in the rebuild, there probably would have been better. Chicago White Sox were probably a better team to go to, but the ownership in Chicago really wanted Tony La Russa. The tight bond between Jerry Reinsdorf and La Russa paid off. They got him, and that opened the doors. And I know the Tigers were worried about maybe a short-term PR hit because of the cheating scandal, but really when you put all things together and you look at really what his involvement was and the fact that really he didn't mastermind it, he was opposed to it, in fact, just didn't do anything to stop it, which was his crime, and he admitted to it. And he was contrite and apologetic, and the type of manager they've got for this situation where they are, it's just perfect. It couldn't have fallen into a better spot for them, for the Tigers.
Chris, I know we talked about earlier, was this going to be a bridge hire, meaning that this was somebody between Gardenhire and the guy when the team was really, really ready to make a move? Obviously, this is a long-term move. I'm kind of curious, what does AJ Hinch bring? Because I know Daniela hears it. I know you do. Would this accelerate the timeline of a Torkelson or a Riley Green? I know it's up to the individual player, but he's been in this situation before. He seems like he's a guy that he likes kind of baptism under fire, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but that's not how the process works, really. He's really good. He's got a background in development, and I think that will help. But, the players determine when they're ready. I think where he helps out is just his understanding of the game, his understanding of people. He's kind of a perfect blend between baseball acumen, old school baseball acumen and ethics and analytics. He's got that background too. And the Tigers have finally gotten their technology and data base and everything to a point where, they're as good as anybody right now. And for him to come in 3 years ago when they didn't have all that infrastructure would have been a waste of his time. Well, he's coming in now and that infrastructure is set and the development and the technology is there. So that's where that's going to all come together. The player's talent is always going to determine how fast they get here. And I think that those timelines, especially for Riley Green and Spencer Torkelson, are the same. I think, within a year. Not in 21, but maybe at the end of 21 and for sure in 22. I think that's what they're hoping for.
Chris, this may be a tough question to answer, but he talked about it, he being AJ Hinch, a little bit in his press conference, getting the players to buy in and not having them live by this cheating scandal and everything that happened in AJ Hinch's past. And we know that players around the league were pretty upset about the entire scandal. Do you foresee any issues in getting these players to buy into his new baseball regimen and what he wants to do with this organization?
Not at all. Not at all. I think it would be harder for Alex Cora to do that, in Boston if he gets the Boston job, because he was a more hands-on with that, with the methods that they were using to cheat. I think AJ is going to be. This is the best part about him. He's going to go right to him, look him in the face, and say, "This is my story. It's not your story, and it's in the past. And I'm moving past it. We're moving past it." I think he'll have some good conversations with maybe Michael Fulmer, who was victimized by the sign stealing a little bit. Maybe Matthew Boyd. I'm not sure Matthew Boyd pitched against them that year in Houston. But some of the guys, Daniel Norris is another one. So those conversations will be a little, I say, well, he'll have to say what he told Al and Christopher Illich to get them to see that he's not, that he was paid his penance, so to speak, and was a good for this job. I don't think that's going to be a problem with the players at all. They want to win, they want to learn, and they know that he's got that pedigree and he's got that cachet just from winning a World Series title and all the success he had in Houston.
Chris, I know that and I don't want to keep belaboring this cheating scandal. Obviously, the Astros cheated. We all know it. A lot of people are still angry about it. I'm kind of curious. I mean, it seems AJ Hinch, as you said, has been upfront about it. He's asked, when is this going to go away? He seems like a realist to me because he doesn't know. He wishes it would go away, but this could be something that could always follow him, right? But it depends on how he actually handles it.
Well, this is the thing that's going to happen. Every city we go into this coming season, the first day we're there, the media is going to ask that question and dredge that back up. It's going to happen first time through the league. And hopefully he'll do enough and accomplish enough, and enough time will pass where that will get further and further into the background. Again, I mean, he said it, he'll say it over and over and repeatedly. He takes full responsibility for not doing enough to stop it. That's his crime, and that's why he was suspended without pay for a year. That's why the trajectory of his career was halted. He's got to pretty much, start afresh here in Detroit, and he's grateful for that opportunity to do that and to prove his own integrity. And that's going to be kind of part of his mission going forward. At the same time, he's going to make it so it's not about his players. It's not about the Detroit Tigers. And I think he's going to be very good at that. I think he's going to be very good at creating that separation so that the players in Detroit don't have to answer those questions.
Excited to see what AJ Hinch brings to the organization, as I'm sure all of the Tigers fans are as well. Chris, I do want to switch gears a little bit and talk about free agency. We're nearing the point where teams are allowed to talk to other free agents aside from their own. Do you have any predictions at what the Tigers might do during this free agency period?
I don't think they could tell you right now what they're going to do because there's so many variables from the fact that, they don't know what kind of revenue they're going to be able to produce next year. They don't know if there's going to be fans in the stands. They don't know how many games are going to be played. They're coming off the COVID year where, they had to lay off people. They had to lay off a lot of people within the organization. So even though from payroll standpoint, the only contract on the books is Miguel Cabrera's $30 million. They're in a position where they could spend money. But when you don't know what your revenue stream is going to be for 2021, you don't know a lot of things that's going to happen after. I think there's talk now about extending the current collective bargaining agreement beyond 21. So that might be a situation where that might make them willing to give a couple multi-year contracts. But honestly, I don't see this as the year that they go out and spend really big, although they could. I think that they're going to try to get a lot of pieces for limited money and try to fill some holes this year. And then 22 might be the year that they really go out and maybe go after some big pieces.
Chris, ever since you were on the last time, something has stuck with me, which I think is a great point in that we don't talk about. No, seriously, you made a good point, Chris, and I'm always going to remember it. Yeah, they're few and far between, my friend. No. I know, no, but seriously, about pitching, you said that. Look, even Matthew Boyd, no starting pitcher pitched enough innings for next season, so to speak.
Right.
Their arms still are young arms, shall we say, or untested to a certain degree. So even though Daniela asked you about free agency, I'm pretty curious. They're going to have to sign some veteran starting pitching. Is that maybe their top priority, even over second, first, corner, outfield, some of the other positions we've talked about?
I think it's a priority. I don't know that I don't think it's a top priority because I think they have a lot of arms in the system still right now. I know there's going to be a couple. I believe there'll be a couple starting pitchers that they'll bring in, but they got to get a catcher, right? I mean, they have. I would think catcher might be the way where they could. I mean, people will cringe, but I mean, James McCann is the second best catcher on the market this year after Real Muto. So that I think catchers you got to either get a first baseman or a third baseman, depending on where you want to play Jamer Candelario. you need a middle, you need a second baseman. If you think Willie Castro is your shortstop, you need a second baseman. The thing about this is there's going to be a lot of players on the market, a lot of good players who, because of the way the market is, the price is going to come down. So they could actually fill a few holes relatively cheaply with pretty good players. You know, you already seen that the teams are not renewing contracts, not picking up options. Brad Hand, the closer for the Indians, had a $10 million option. Not only did the Indians not pick it up, the 29 other teams could have got him for $10 million and nobody bid on him. So that tells you how the market is going to be. Just Colton Wong, second baseman, who would fit really well in what the Tigers are doing. The Cardinals didn't pick up his $12.5 million option. So, I mean, there's going to be really good players on the market who I think they could get affordably.
So, Chris, what do you think about a guy like Jonathan Schoop or maybe even CJ Cron, who are free agents? Do you see the Tigers re-signing them, or are they going to go elsewhere? You're talking about a second baseman, and there's also Austin Rehmann, but from your point of view, they might look elsewhere for a catcher.
Yeah, and honestly, Danielle, I wish I knew exactly. Al Avila has been really good at not answering these kind of questions, and for good reason. You know, he doesn't want to tip his hand. So I don't know how they're going to do this. I think Jonathan Schoop would come cheaper than Colton Wong, and I think Jonathan Schoop was a good fit. The question is somebody else think he's a good fit too, and they may go after him. I would think of all the guys that the Tigers had last year, our free agents going forward, Schoop is probably the guy that's most likely to come back. But I mean, you can't say it for sure. I mean, and plus, AJ is involved now too a little bit, so he's going to have a different viewpoint maybe on some of these things as well. So it changes the dynamic a little bit.
Chris, real quickly, one thing I have to ask you about is that I know Tiger fans were doing somersaults down Woodward, those that, at a social distance, of course, but when they heard that Justin Verlander, and they were masked up, when Justin Verlander reached out to AJ Hinch, and now everybody thinks JV's back. He's going to finish his career as a Tiger. Do you know anything about, do they have a special relationship, or was this just Verlander offering his congratulations to AJ Hinch for being named Tigers manager?
Yeah, I think that was it. And then AJ, of course, would ask him about the organization he grew up in. And JV, he has no ill feelings about the Tigers organization. He loves the Tigers organization. And I don't think it's beyond the realm. I mean, he's coming back from Tommy John surgery. He's not going to pitch at all next year. So we have to wait and see how that is for him coming back, what kind of pitcher he is. But I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that he finishes his career in a Tigers uniform. I mean, he's said before that if he goes in the Hall of Fame, he's a Tiger. So, I mean, I don't think that's beyond the scope. But the conversation was a no-brainer. You talk to guys who that you managed, who came from the Tigers organization. And there's no more honest guy than JV. You know that for sure.
I'm glad I let you have that question, Art, because it's an interesting point. It'd be fun to see JV back in Detroit, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Chris, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. We really appreciate it. We'll definitely be talking to you soon. And of course, a big thank you to McLaren Healthcare for presenting Brush Street Beat right here on The Word on Woodward. Another thank you to Chris for joining us, and we'll continue this Tigers talk with John Marosi later in the show. He's going to join Art live for the headliner. In other news, we talked about the Red Wings signing Anthony Mantha today to a 4-year deal at $5.7 million a year. He will be joining the Detroit sports media on a press conference at 5 p.m. today, and that will be live on all Red Wings social media channels. So if you want to hear from it, make sure that you tune in to those social media channels, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and you can hear from Anthony Mantha himself. And right now, we're going to talk everything else Red Wings with Helene St. We caught up with her yesterday. It's time for Downtown Hockey Town, presented by Labatt Blue Light. And today's guest is Helene St. of the Detroit Free Press. Helene, thank you so much for taking the time to join us again today.
My pleasure.
Art, what are you doing?
Oh, Helene's here? I'm sorry, I was just reading this great new book that about the Red Wings. It's fantastic. It's the men and moments that made the Detroit Red Wings the Big 50. Oh my gosh, Helene, you wrote this thing. Congratulations.
Thank you, Art. It was a joy to write, and I'm glad it's doing so well.
You
Yeah,
know,
it seems.
I
Oh, go ahead, Art. Go ahead.
I was just, no, go ahead. No, go ahead, Danielle. I can continue reading. I was just on the
Yeah,
Scotty Bowman stuff.
you
Fantastic.
go ahead and read. You go read. I'm going to ask Elena a question.
Okay,
I was
okay,
just
go
going to
ahead.
say, I feel like the feedback, all that I've seen about the book, Elena, has been so positive, especially on Twitter and things like that. Are you feeling good about actually having it released and people be able to buy it and people being able to read it? All the hard work you've put into it.
You know, Danielle, I absolutely am. And I'll be honest, when the pandemic hit, I was a little apprehensive, especially, obviously it's affected being able to do book signings and such. But the feedback and the response has been excellent. People reaching out to me for a personalized copy. I know that local Barnes and Noble already has another order in because they've been sold out. So yeah, it's been, it was a lot of work. I enjoyed the work, but it was a lot of work. And then I learned that a manuscript is like a boomerang and that it keeps coming back to you for more edits. So finally, to see it in its final product, this actually came out last month. Just been a great joy and something really, wonderful to have happen in this very challenging year. And, we all know we should be covering a road game probably right now, or talking about how the Wings are on a 7-game winning streak to start the season. And instead we're sitting here desperate for hockey. So I'm just super pleased with it.
So you wrote an article that predicted what the Red Wings lines will be next season. And your top line consisted of Valtteri Filppula, Robbie Fabry, and Anthony Mantha in the forward core. Now that they have guys like Nemetsnikov and Bobby Ryan to fit into their forward core, how hard was it for you to decide what the lines would be?
Well, that was exactly part of it, Danielle. It was so refreshing to actually have choices for a change instead of going like, okay, Larkin, Mantha, Bertuzzi, and then no one, Art, me, you.
So really, there we go.
So,
I love that line.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's a lot of grit. we might not get off ice very fast, but in break, my decision to break it up. I just wanted to see Mantha with more of a playmaker than Larkin. And I think, they had talked last season about Robbie Fabry started out as a center. I think that's where he's played most of his career. So, give him a look there. And then, just to have a defensive presence and a kind of safety net there. And Filppula, let's not forget, he is a much better passer. He's a much better player than we saw last year. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's getting up there in the years like we all are. But he's an excellent passer. So I think there's two guys who maybe could feed Mantha. I think we could, if he stays, injury free, maybe even a shortened season, finally see him hit the 30-goal plateau. So I just thought that was a line that had some potential. I know people may wonder, well, why is Filppula on that line? Like I said, he's a better. His skating is still strong. He's good defensively, and like I said, to me, he's one of the better passers on the team.
Well, I think what this does point out, this article, is just the depth that the Red Wings have, what Steve has been able to do. Your second line, I just want to read them real quickly because I have a question to ask you. Bertuzzi, Larkin, and Bobby Ryan on the second line. Glendening, Nemetsnikov, and Zadina on the third line. Then your fourth line is really interesting. Again, stating their depth. You have Ernie or Helm or Franz Nielsen and Sam Gagner. And I guess who I think it might be a forgotten man, because I forget they even signed him, because it was so long ago, but is Matthias Bromia, who's doing very well in the Swedish league and a little older. Svechnikov they have to do something with, and then Timashov. I mean, I guess what I really like about this story that you wrote in Sunday's Free Press is it really does. The Red Wings suddenly have options that they haven't had for many, many years, it seems.
Right. And actually, I definitely think Svechnikov's best chance to show he belongs in the lineup is, bumping somebody off that fourth line, maybe either a Helm or a Nilsson. I think you want Gagner in the lineup, especially to have for the power play. And obviously there's something about Adam Ernie that Steve likes. I mean, he's had him in Tampa. He's brought him here. So, and to me, what I like about that line. Now, I would think Brame, you keep him in Sweden just because of the way things are, right. And then see where things are next season. And who knows? I could see Sam Gagner working out here for a few years. I like his. I know they like how he is in the locker room as well. And I think he's kind of a very good. He's a very good talker, which is very honest. I think really good guy at setting examples for younger players and such. But I like the third line too. You know, I think you take a little pressure off Sedina by putting him on that line. And Nemesnikov, I'm intrigued to see what he can do. But and Glendening, again, he kind of plays the Philpo role there, adds speed, kind of a safety net as well. So I just think that this is a mix where, hey, you might actually have 3 scoring lines instead of just 1.
Well, that'd be nice. That would be very nice.
I want to ask you about another player specifically, and I know Art will appreciate this because he is a big fan of Giovanni Smits. And when you look at his chances of making the Red Wings and cracking that lineup, and as we've talked about, there are a lot more forwards on the Red Wings now, a lot more depth. So what do you think his chances are? What do you see for his future?
It's interesting. I mean, I think so much is uncertain. We don't know what's the AHL going to be like. And, I mean, is there going to be a scenario in which maybe the NHL expands the roster so they can play a more compact schedule, play more games, so that would give Giovanni Smith a better chance. I think, in the little glimpse we saw of him, I like his physicality. I think he has a great attitude, and he seems to have learned how to be physical without, taking retaliatory penalties, which would mean he would be benched, So exactly. I think he's going to be a good fit. I don't know if it's as soon as next season. I just think there's so much, we don't know. And Michael Rasmussen too. Now, do they keep him overseas if he's playing well? If he's playing, I just feel like the answer to everything right now is if, or it depends on the pandemic. So unfortunately.
I know goal is all, it's Bernier and it's Thomas Greiss, and they're both going to play a lot, especially if the schedule's compacted. As you said, we just don't know. I like your defensive pairings. I like Stahl and Hronek, Nemeth and Stetcher, DeKaiser and Merrill, because I really think, as you said, Seider is going to spend time in Sweden. Lindstrom is playing there. So when you look at it, this top 6, I don't, maybe in various different combinations we can interchange them, but the defense seems to be pretty much set.
I think so too, and I think especially on the first 2 pairings, you have a left shot and a right shot, which, certainly out there, that would make Mike Babcock happy. We know how he felt about left shot and right shot pairings. So, but even, for the Wings, it's nice to have. And I think, again, you can have, you actually, I mean, again, I think the 3, the top 4 they had last season, beyond Hronek and Nemeth, really, because let's remember, by this time last season, DeKaiser was already gone. I mean, their defense was just such a patchwork that, Art, I think you could have snuck in there and people wouldn't have noticed.
I think Steve thought about it. I truly do.
I noticed how many times he would, we could see him where he sat in the manager's box, and he would look up at you and be like, look at the time, how much time. So absolutely. And let's not forget Alex Biega, who I think he's a really good guy to have on a team. Like, what you get in him, no flash, but great dependability in my mind. And then there's Dennis Cholowski, does he see an opening here? I mean, he had a chance last season. I don't think, it wasn't as aggressive as they needed him to be. Does he still fit into the rebuild? And if so, where this is again an opportunity for him to show up at training camp and show, hey, I belong. We know he's an NHL caliber skater. He's got great offense. It's just can he weigh the risk so that coaches don't want to be like, no, you're too risky. The puck ends up in the back of the other team's net more often than good plays happen out there.
One last question for you, Helena. And you mentioned Danny DeKaiser briefly when talking about the blue line. And we know that he missed a majority of last season, went out in late October, early November last season, and obviously hasn't skated since then. Is he still sort of a question mark for the Red Wings, or do you think he's going to come back and be as strong as he was beforehand?
To me, he absolutely is, because I think he's a March birthday, so he'll be almost, let's say even the season starts in February, and he'll by then not have played in almost a year and a half. I mean, that's a long layoff, right. And like he hasn't been able to do the kind of quality game shape skating that would be necessary. So to me, he's absolutely a question mark. Can he resume his career after being off for so long? And that's where, again, I think, then have the depth with Biega on there and Cholowski, that so that they should not be in the situation they were in last year. I believe they ran through 14 defensemen last year just because of injuries and trying to find something to work. So yeah, but I think you have to wonder what can they get out of Danny DeKeyser at this point.
Yeah, and the reason I really ask is because in the 8-9 games that he did play, he was having a really good season so far before he went down with the injury.
He was, and I think people overlook, no, is Danny DeKeyser a number one defenseman? No, he's not. But he was on the wings because of the state of their defense corps. So when he went out, it really was a huge blow for them. But I really think I was impressed with how Philip Hronek responded, and not just the offense he produced, but the hard minutes he played, and he stood up to it. And I think he was still only 21, 22 years old. So I think you really have to be impressed with how he handled the extra pressure. But beyond him, I mean, pairing him with Nemeth, it was just such a patchwork on their defense. But they absolutely, to me, as much as, you miss Anthony Mantha's offense when he was out of the lineup, and his injuries were, anytime he came back, then Anthony would come out. Just as Anthony came back, Sadina got hurt, it was just, but I still think out of all of them, if you could have had Danny DeKeyser back, there'd have been some more stability on the back end, and that would have made the whole team just a little bit better.
Well, Helena, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today and talk some Red Wings hockey. And hopefully we have some actual Red Wings hockey, some good news out of the NHL very soon.
I got to get back to reading. Thank you.
Thank you, Art. Thank you, Danielle.
A big thank you to Labatt Blue Light as well for presenting Downtown Hockey Town. Labatt Blue Light, refreshing Canadian Pilsner. Visit your local retailer when safe to pick up some Labatt Blue Light. Another thank you to Helena for joining us. And of course, another reminder that Anthony Mantha will be hosting a press conference at 5 p.m. and it will be streamed live on Red Wings social media channels. So you can catch that on Red Wings Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Again, that's 5 p.m. for Anthony Mantha's press conference. And right now, I'm going to toss it over to Art, who is joined by a very special guest for today's headliner.
Well, thank you very much there, Daniela. It is time for the headliner presented by Miller Lite. And let's welcome in J.P. Marosi, John Paul Marosi, John Marosi. It's Marosi. And we're so excited to have him here from MLB Network. J.P., thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Art, always enjoy the conversation, whether it's hockey, whether it's baseball, whatever the sport. Always a pleasure to speak with you, my friend.
I promise, because I've said this now. You've been on several times here on what we affectionately call WOW, the word on Woodward. So I'm going to ask you a hockey question, just not right now. but I want to get into the World Series. I know you were there. Now that you look back on it, you've had a few, about a week or so to reflect on it. Major League Baseball pulled it off. I think we're all happy for it. What was that environment like?
Well, Art, I felt very grateful to be there. As you point out, a pretty unique set of circumstances overall, and I was actually part of the bubble during the World Series. So I was staying at the Secure Zone Hotel, as it was known, around all the players, coaches, managers, MLB staff, which was unique, a very unique experience. And I felt very grateful to be there, and I really give, as you pointed out, credit to MLB, credit to the union for pulling it off. Of course, obviously there was the positive test at the very end for Justin Turner, but the World Series was completed, and ultimately the team that had the best record during the regular season prevailed and won the World Series, that being, of course, the Los Angeles Dodgers winning their first championship since Kirk Gibson's home run back in 1988. So, Art, it was, I think, a very unique playoffs to cover. The caliber of play on the field, I would say, reminded me a lot of a standard postseason. It was, I thought, a very high level of play, some incredible moments, starting with the Bellinger catch on Tatis, which I saw there in Texas, and then, of course, culminating the incredible Game 4 conclusion, which all unfolded right in front of me. I was about to go on the field to do post-game interviews with the supposedly victorious Dodgers. Of course, they didn't win, so I was watching all that happen right in front of me. It was a pretty remarkable set of circumstances to see a Rosarena fall down probably about 40 feet away from me, get up, score the run, absolute bedlam on the field, a sports moment I will never forget.
Well, what's interesting about that, and you said it, and I guess because we cover athletes, and I've been on the sidelines at Michigan Stadium with 115,000 people or whatever it is, yelling and screaming, and I completely tune that out. I don't even hear the fans because I'm watching what's going on in the field, and I found myself during these telecasts forgetting that there weren't fans there. I don't know if it was because of the quality of play, which is a testament to the players, or the sound that they had piped in. But I'm kind of like you, and I know you were there, so it was a little bit different, but it didn't seem any different than a normal World Series to me watching it on television. It was
I agree,
perfect.
and it meant the same to the players. Exactly. And I had been saying, Art, all summer long when I'd be asked, well, what is this going to mean? And will there be a qualifier around this tournament and this championship in any way that devalues it? And I kept saying, just watch first of all, the quality of play, and then watch the reaction of the players after they win, after the final game. And you saw no diminishment in the emotional meaning of this. My own personal reflection being on the field, I saw Julio Urias, who of course finished out the game for the Dodgers, and Victor Gonzalez, two great friends, close friends, both from Mexico. Urias came out. He had the Mexican flag with him around his shoulders, and he hugs Victor, and they're both crying and smiling and speaking with one another. And that to me said, okay, if there's anybody that doubts the meaning of this and how much this all matters to the players involved, just watch that clip of video and tell me that it doesn't matter as much as it would in any other year. And in some ways, means even more. Urias told me actually just minutes after that, that he had two great uncles pass away from COVID-19 and one great aunt who died in Mexico of the illness. So the emotional burden he had carried through. Manuel Margot on the Rays side, his father had passed away in the Dominican Republic of COVID-19 during the course of the year. There was a very real toll emotionally, physically on the families that has taken place during the course of the year. And I think we really saw just the emotion of the moment come out there at the very end.
Well, I thought it was great. And I would imagine Clayton Kershaw, who has some sort of tie to Matt Stafford, I'm not sure exactly what it is, but I felt good for him because he has been a great pitcher, and he finally, got over the hump. And I don't know how big of a story it was, but I was kind of rooting for Clayton Kershaw, to be honest with you. And I'm glad that he performed well in the postseason because, as you very well know, as great a pitcher as he's been, until you do it on that big stage, there's always, he was good, but I think Clayton Kershaw can now, not that he shouldn't with making like, I don't know, $1 zillion, but he can rest easy. I mean, he's got his world championship.
It reminds me a lot of Peyton Manning when he finally won it with the Colts, Art. I would say, just to use that football example. And Clayton Kershaw, though, to me, I've always said this, he doesn't have to apologize in terms of the postseason. He's already won 13 playoff games, postseason games in his career. And since the wild card era began, and obviously the playoff format changed a bit then, he is third all time after Pettit and Verlander in postseason wins since then. That's incredible. And while he had some ill-timed losses, there is a pretty significant asterisk by a couple of them because of the Astros and the Red Sox and what MLB's investigations later found about both teams. So it's important to put that into context and understand it. And you mentioned the Stafford connection. It was pretty funny. One of the days I saw Clayton around, he was actually wearing a Lions hat. And I said, Clayton, hey, it was a pretty big game for Matthew's team yesterday. He said, yeah, they're playing better. I think it was the day after one of their wins. And so clearly Clayton, in the midst of the World Series, was representing his buddy and keeping an eye on the Lions. And he had good things to say about the Lions, even, again, wearing the hat. So I saw that Honolulu blue hat. I said, wait a minute, that's not Dodger blue, it's Honolulu blue. And I just was chatting with Clayton about it. He's a really classy guy, Art. I think he's someone that's been a great ambassador for the game. He's given so much, really worked a lot in the community all around the world, really, and volunteering his time and money. So he's one of the great ones, and I'm happy for him that he got a championship.
Well, yeah, I am too. I mean, I've always been a Dodgers fan. First major league room I ever went into was the Dodgers out, and I have a lot of relatives in California. I'll take back, you'll remember him as a player, but Maury Wills was kind of married into my family somehow or whatever. And so I used to go when I was out in California, we'd always go to Dodger games. Walt Alston, the manager. So I'm pretty happy for the Dodgers. With that said, now it's a nice transition there because you did bring up the Houston Astros. AJ Hinch hired as Tigers manager. Your thoughts on that? And I will be surprised. Bob Nightingale in today's USA Today just ripped it. I mean, I think that that this might not go away as quickly as maybe AJ Hinch, the Tigers, or Major League Baseball want it. People are still very angry, and I know you're on top of it, JP, about what the Astros did. But with that said, eventually I think it's going to settle down. But your thoughts on AJ Hinch being hired as Tiger manager and how this Astros cheating scandal is going to play out?
Well, to your point, the first question that was asked of AJ at the press conference was about the Astros and the cheating scandal in 2017. And it's part of his story. And I think he very smartly addressed it in a forthright manner, first of all, during the interview process, but second of all, during the course of the conversation with the media in Detroit, saying that this is part of my story, but it does not have to be part of my player's story. And I think that's going to be the theme that he goes back to. We all know the history. It happened. There was an MLB investigation. We can all read it. It's there. AJ's actions, I think, in that were not necessarily as damning as Alex Cora's, for example. It was pointed out that AJ was not the person who devised the scheme, but obviously he could have done more to stop it. He has admitted that himself. He admitted that to the Tigers during the interview process, to the public. He's an open book in that respect. And really it comes down to, are you a believer in second chances or not? And there were certainly some great candidates there who were interviewed by the Tigers who could have been hired that would not have had this baggage. But ultimately the Tigers did the cost benefit and said they know that AJ has a proven track record of winning, albeit with an asterisk in the minds of many, and someone who has done a very good job of blending analytics and traditional baseball knowledge. I think AJ is someone who meets you wherever you are in the modern baseball conversation. And by that, I mean, there are times when speaking with the analytics group or an owner or a high-level executive with 5 degrees from an Ivy League school where AJ can speak to that person as the Stanford-educated person that he is. He can also speak to that person as someone who's raised in Midwest City, Oklahoma, and was a backup catcher in the major leagues. There are both areas of AJ that I think he draws from at different times. And he does have that, at times, very relatable disposition. And he's a very good listener. He's very smart, but he never, I think, makes you feel like he's above you in that respect. I think he's a very good person when it comes to relating to others. So you look at the diversity of his roster in Houston, a lot of players from all around the world, players from different backgrounds here in the U.S. that won together. And I think AJ is someone who I've always admired a lot with his baseball acumen. I've covered him a number of times in the postseason. I've sat with him in his office a lot of different times and discussed before playoff broadcasts strategy and decision making. And he's always struck me as one of the most thoughtful people in the game, who always has a very good, measured answer for you. He's happy to explain his thinking because his decisions come from a place of confidence that are backed up with both analytics and also his lived experience. So I think Tiger fans are going to enjoy him. I know family members of mine, my mom was texting me, what do you think? And I said, my mom was a little worried, admittedly, about the Houston situation, but I just said, listen to what AJ says and give him a chance. The Tigers have done their due diligence on this. And she watched the press conference and said, yeah, John, I was impressed by him. I'm going to give him a chance. And I think that's probably where a lot of Tiger fans are now. And as you know, Art, ultimately winning is your salvation. And I believe that the Tigers in time will become a winning ball club again.
Well, I'm a big believer in second chances. I always have been, and I will. I think it's a great hire, a baseball hire. He's going to have to live with his past for a while, but I think eventually, hopefully, it kind of is not brushed under the rug, but it's in the back of the bus, so to speak. It's not always front and present for him and for the Tiger players. I do think it's a great hire. I think he is the long-term manager, as you said. He understands analytics. He's not an Ivy League grad for sure, as you are, John.
Stanford is, I would say, of that great academic caliber for sure.
Well, just let me say, Harvard and Stanford, it's not Michigan, okay? It's just not Michigan. So I'm a little biased. So, but with all that said, and you're in Ann Arbor, so I'm sure that's a real happy place right now. But with that said, I really want to look at the Tigers and hone in on them. When you look at Detroit, what they were, it was a weird season. I still think they were like 9 games under 500 or whatever. They had the 3rd overall pick in the upcoming Major League Baseball draft. But I saw hope. I thought it was a fun season. I thought it was an exciting season. I watched all 58 games, even the 17 to whatever shellacking by the Brewers. But I was there for every inning. I think the future is very, very good for Detroit. How do you see this offseason playing out for them now that they have their manager?
It's going to be very interesting, Art. And to me, the big question is, do the Tigers do any shopping this winter that is aimed at the next couple of years? And by that, I mean, do you find a player that you like and believe can help you win a division, potentially, or a wild card berth in 2022, even if you're not quite there yet in 2021? Do you sign a Taijuan Walker to a 2 or a 3-year deal? Do you sign a Matt Shoemaker, local guy from Trenton, to a 2-year deal to help your rotation out? I think those are questions that the Tigers have to wrestle with. Do you do shopping for multiple years at a time when a lot of clubs have some capital issues from a standpoint of how much money they'll be able to spend this winter? Do you take that aggressive posture and make that move? I'm not so sure that, for example, LeMahieu, of course, from Birmingham, I'd be surprised if they make a move for the local guy in that respect. I think DJ probably goes back to the Yankees. But I think to your point, Art, the most exciting thing for me is that we saw in 2020 a group of young position players who are beginning to form the guts of the next good Tigers team. I think Castro is a keeper. I think Reyes is a keeper. Candelario showed himself to be that. Jacoby Jones proved himself to be that. That's half of a team. And obviously, you've got to stay healthy, and Jones was injured. And you got to do it every year. Of course, it's been one good year now for Candelario, and Castro just came up. It was like a half season. I think Harold Castro, when healthy, is a very good super utility player. So I think they're about, from a position player standpoint, Art, they're about halfway there. They're about halfway there, which is good, which is better than they were a year ago. I think Castro really has developed a lot as a bat. I think that you look around the infield, and candidly, up until Crone got hurt, they were right in the middle of the wild card conversation. So they probably still need to find a way to add one more corner bat and replace Scope's production. Scope was very good this past year, very good at second base. I think he had one of the great underrated seasons in baseball, I thought, in 2020. Tremendous player. And then, of course, address the rotation. If Matthew Boyd has the kind of season that we could expect from him at his peak, 2020 maybe is a different field to the Tigers. But there was not that reliable quotient of innings that they were hoping to get from Matthew, and it was a struggle for him. And so it's now a question of, does he have a guaranteed place in the rotation next year? I don't know that, to be honest with you. I think there's a lot of questions about that right now, and how the expense overall looks for this club. And so some tough decisions ahead, I think, for the Tigers. And also, Mize and Skubal have to keep progressing. I think with Mize, there were certainly some growing pains in 2020. I saw some things to build on, but I think he realized that what worked in Toledo and in the past won't necessarily get it done at the major league level. And so I think it's a winter of a lot of workshopping for Casey to make sure that he comes back in 2021 and is the best pitcher that he can be.
Very, very quickly, our executive producer, Mark Milligan, who was very distraught today. I understand he locked himself in his bathroom and his wife had to talk him out of it, because when he found out that Willie Castro wasn't a finalist for AL Rookie of the Year, he couldn't believe it. What happened, John? Can you appease Mark in some way?
Well, I appreciate Mark's concern. I think Willie is a player who I think deserved a lot of credit and consideration on that ballot. But there were a lot of really good players in the American League this year who were in that rookie class. And I think Kyle Lewis and his production, Luis Robert as well. To me, I look at the games played there, say that the fact that Lewis and Robert were there from day one probably was something that helped them out in their candidacy. I think ultimately, especially in a brief season, that it's hard to choose someone whose games played were I think basically half or maybe 60% or so of what the games played number was for the likes of Lewis and Robert. So I think overall, if you went game for game, who was the best rookie in the American League from the time that Castro came up, it's probably Castro. But But this is a 60-game award, and I think that the overall shortage of games there probably was what hurt Castro in the end.
I know we're running out of time, and I am going to ask you a hockey question. I promise I'm a man of my word. But James McCann, White Sox, or could he come back to the Tigers?
I could see him come back. The Tigers really, Art, and you know this, they have never really solved the catching position since James left. And James went off to Chicago and became a tremendous player there. I have to think that with the White Sox having Grandal, that it's hard for me to imagine him staying in Chicago. So he's going to be out there. I would say this, there's going to be a lot of competition for his services. You think about JT Realmuto and all the interest in JT. I think McCann will be less expensive than JT, and he's a really good player. So I think if he waits and Realmuto signs somewhere, I would say that McCann, you wait and see what JT signs for, and then base your asking price off of that. Same thing, I think, with Yadier Molina and his market. Interestingly, a free agent for the first time is Yadi. So I think that there's a chance for McCann, but I think the interest in him is going to be so broad, Art, that it's going to be a challenge, I believe, for the Tigers to sign James McCann back.
All right, one final question, hockey related. I know you live in the area. Oh, by the way, how's your wife doing? I know she's a doctor. Everything good? I mean, cases are spiking, so but everything good in the household?
Yeah, we're thanks for the question and the concern as always. The school's doing fine. I'm glad to be home and be able to help facilitate the education. But yes, my wife and all of her work at the hospital has been doing well, just staying safe, but out all day by day, trying to do the best we can. But yes, to your hockey question, I'll make it short because I know we have to run. But I love the signings. I think Merrill was a great signing, of course. You bring him back to the state of Michigan. And Bobby Ryan, I think, especially on a shorter-term deal, what an incredible story. A lot of people, I think, draw inspiration for Bobby Ryan and really one of the great American goal scorers ever. So I think he's a really intriguing guy to bring in. You look at what he meant for a long time there in terms of his goal production. He could be a very intriguing player to bring back here to the state of Michigan.
Right, certainly. And Mantha signing today, 4 years, $5.7 million. I mean, great. I believe he's a 40-goal scorer. Real quick, JP, I just want to say I think your kids are really, really talented, very artistic. I love those pictures behind you. The books, I still think those are the Harvard Classics above you there. Great series. I actually own a set of the Harvard Classics myself. But thank you for joining us, JP. Really appreciate it. Nothing but success. It's always great to have you here on The Headliner. Thank you.
Thanks, Art. It's my leather-bound book collection, trying to add an aura of sophistication that I actually lack in person. I'm trying to make up for with my books.
I've always said this. You're a true Renaissance man. If I know a real Renaissance man, it's John Paul Marosi. You are, my friend, a Renaissance man. Thanks again.
All right, thanks so much. Have a great day.
You too. All right, that'll do it for this edition of The Headliner, presented by Miller Lite. It is the original light beer, only 96 calories. It's delicious, and it is available for delivery. Daniela, back to you.
Thank you, Art, and another thank you to John Marosi for joining us for today's Headliner. It's always great to hear from him. Now we're going to get into Let's Socialize, presented to you by AAA. And of course, we're going to bring in Carly Johnston for this one. Carly, what do you got for us today?
Thanks, Daniela. All right. I know I have a couple questions for you guys that Art, you pretty much just touched on with John Marosi, but I'm going to ask you guys your opinions. Daniela, we're going to start with you. Something that Art brought up was that Willie Castro wasn't nominated for AL Rookie of the Year. So a fan wants to know, do you think he should have been?
Yeah, I do think he should have been. And John Marosi made a couple of really good points in saying that Willie Castro wasn't up for the full season when you have guys like Lewis Robert, who was, and Kyle Lewis, who also was. But looking at Lewis Robert, who he did mention, he had a really bad September, to put it lightly. He batted under 150. So I really think Willie Castro should have been in this mix. He had 36 games under his belt, 45 hits, 24 RBIs, 6 home runs, and his batting average was a 349. So to me, it's a little amazing that he wasn't actually considered. But like Marosi said, it had to be because he didn't play that full 60 games. He really only played just over half. It was probably closer to 60% of the games. But Kyle Lewis will probably win this one. I do think Willie Castro should be in there, though. Maybe I'm biased. I don't know. But I do think that he should have definitely been nominated.
I too am probably also biased, but I agree with you. The numbers are up there. Our next question is for you. I kind of already know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it anyway because the fans want to know. What is your take on the Mantha deal? Do you think it was a fair contract?
I guess I do. You know, I mean, 5.7 million average for 4 years is pretty darn good. You know, I think that Anthony Mantha knew. I don't think he filed for arbitration like Tyler did because he wanted a long-term deal. I think the Red Wings were interested in signing him long-term because he's a pure goal scorer. You know, he's a behemoth. He's big. He's the BT Express for a reason. He has a great shot. You know, he can power to the net. He can do everything. He's a very underrated passer. He's a complete hockey player. I know fans are always upset because they look at him and they say, don't fight, don't do this. But he's a really, really emotional player. And I think the older he gets, he'll pick his spots wisely. But his last injury, Jake Muzzin cheap shot at him and should have been suspended by the league. You know, he slew-footed him, grabbed him by the shoulder, and threw him down to the ice a couple of days before Christmas in Toronto. And I think Muzzin might have got a penalty, but that's it. The league, you know, I've never asked Steve about this, and I really want to. But, you know, so that was not him fighting. I know he's hurt himself fighting. That was a cheap shot by Jake Muzzin, which punctured his lung while he was out. But I don't think with Anthony Mantha, he's a complete package. I know people want to settle him down, but he's not going to settle down. I think with Big Tony, when the BT Express is chugging, and he chugs a lot, I mean, I'm telling you right now, that's going to be part of his game. Again, though, I think that he'll pick his spots wisely. He knows he has to be out on the ice. So I think it's a great deal. I think it's a fair deal. 4 years, they'll take him up to 30. You know, he's 30. There's still a lot of hockey left in that body of his, even at 30 years old. If he's scoring 40 or 485 goals. Now, remember this. This is something we don't talk about when we talk about Steve Yzerman. By the way, I just want to show you ladies something right here before I continue. Whenever Michigan loses a football game, I just stare at this picture. It gives me solace. It gives me comfort. The captain will never give up. So actually, if you look at this picture, it's at the airport. You know, Steve was probably there picking up somebody. It's around Christmas time. And this guy said, hey, I just met Steve Yzerman and sent me this picture. I cropped him out, obviously. And I kept the picture. I kept a picture of Steve. And I used to post on Twitter, the captain says, go blue. And people would just like flock to it. But anyway, my point about Yzerman is this, is that unbeknownst to us, unbeknownst is another word I've used a lot today too. Unbeknownst to us, and a lot of times, Steve was here for 22 years. I think his contract was renegotiated several times over the course of that. During the offseason, they just renegotiated it, you know, because his contract was never an issue here in Detroit. Because, oh, yeah, we just renegotiated Steve's deal. I think if Mantha turns into the goal scorer we want, I wouldn't be surprised if this 4-year deal is extended or they renegotiate that deal and it takes him well beyond his 30th birthday. I just think that, you know, I see Steve doing that. Steve is going to reward you. Look, one thing about Yzerman, he's consistent. If you perform in the red and white, you're going to stay in the red and white, and you're going to be handsomely rewarded. I think the Red Wings know that. That's their history. Steve has experienced it firsthand as a player. I think that's what his philosophy is. So I think this is a good deal all the way around for the team and for the Big Tony Express, better known as the BT Express.
Love it. All right. I agree with you. Happy to have him for the next 4 years and hopefully longer. All right. Last but not least, we have a great question, a great fan submission. This is going to go to both of you. Daniela, you first, and then to you, Art. What would be the first thing you would splurge on after you sign a new deal like Mantha just signed? Start with you, Daniela.
Okay, well, I know that I should probably take like the modest, the nice answer and say, of course, I would help my family, but I think that's a given. Okay, that's a given. Of course, anyone who
You've
gets
already done that. This is
yes,
after
right,
you've got
exactly.
everything
We're talking
settled.
selfish
Yes.
person.
Selfish, exactly. Go for
All right,
it.
good. I am buying a boat, 100%. That's exactly what I'm buying. I want to be right next to Ken Kal in my boat, riding around Lake St. Clair. So that's the first thing I would be doing.
I love that. All right. Well,
This is
our
what
crew will be on the boat every weekend.
Well,
I
I
love
definitely
it.
will be on the boat every weekend because, we don't talk about this much, and I don't want to reveal secrets, but Daniela has a very, very impressive tattoo. And, and out on the boat, I mean, this thing is incredible. I mean, it's a very, how shall I say this? It's very colorful. It's very, very colorful. And she did it in one sitting. What? Pardon me?
Two colors in it.
Is it? Yeah. Oh, what, green and red? Is that it? But see, I mean, so I would definitely be out on the boat. In a little pink. It's a beautiful tattoo. So I'm out on the boat. What would I do?
Get a tattoo.
I don't know. I'm going to tell you something. I am not that I'm not that materialistic. I drive a 2004 vintage Saturn Ion. So, I mean, I'm not into cars. I dropped, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't, I don't want to sound like I'm some sort of martyr here or something, but what I would probably end up doing is giving it would be splurging on somebody who needs money. I mean, if that makes sense. I would look at something charitable. Seriously, I mean, I'm happy. I'm happy in my life. I don't have a whole heck of a lot, and I enjoy it, but I'm surrounded. I have family and friends. I love all of them. I mean, I just feel good. If I were to get something, I probably would maybe get a new house, which is a little bit bigger because I'm embarrassed, but here, I mean, if you look, I mean, I just got crap all over. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm running out of room. So I might get a bigger house so I can throw all my junk all over because, things are piled up on each other. But I would definitely, I don't know. I really don't. I mean, I guess money's never been that big of an issue for me. It's never been, I don't base my life on how much money I make or how much money I want to make, or I wish I had $1 million. I don't think that way. I never have. So when you tell me, if you throw a bunch of money at me, I don't know what I would do with it. Who knows? Maybe it'd be wine, women, and song, for the next year. And then, you'd be, doing a retrospective of what my career was like before I got the money here on WOW. I have no idea, but I really, I know what this sounds like a real standard and pat answer, but I really think that I would take a couple of charities that I really like or that I believe in, like Leader Dogs for the Blind, which I think is a great organization, soup kitchens, things like that. I think that I would evenly spread it out and try to help people. If I got a windfall in my good fortune, I would like to share it. I know that sounds corny, but then again, that's how we're taught, I guess, at the University of Michigan, as opposed to, you guys being very, people.
This is where we already stated all of the donated money has been donated. The family has been taken care of. Everything. We're talking about your selfish splurge. But hey, if you don't want to splurge it, you can.
You know what? My selfish splurge would be an elaborate cat house, tree house, not cat house, but a cat castle behind me. This one's starting to fall apart, and the guys are really upset about it. So I would get a high-end, high fashion, I mean, when poor Emilio jumps up there, God only knows if he's going to stay or not, because it could topple on him. I mean, that's just the way it is. So it'd be kind of a cat castle.
Oh, okay. We finally came to that decision after 5
Yeah.
minutes of deliberating. I don't even
Or
want
you
to
know
answer
what?
that
You know
question.
what? You know what I would do? Wait. I'm sorry, Carrie. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I would make sure that Daniela had the funds to get another tattoo to match her other one. I think that would be great. I think because then no matter what angle you're looking at her, you can see the tattoo.
But you're making a lot of money there. I mean, my tattoo wasn't millions of dollars, Art. It wasn't even thousands of dollars.
I like to I like to spread it out. I like to spread it. You know, I mean, you know, Carly, Carly, do you have tattoos or no? Do you have a tattoo?
I have 4, I think.
4. What is it with you kids and these tattoos? I mean, oh, that's cool. Well, I'd get you a tattoo too. You know,
all right.
If you want a tattoo, you can get one. You each get tattoos.
Well, let's get wow, all 3 of us.
I'll do it.
Yeah. Okay.
You won't put a bumper sticker. What is the saying? Don't put a bumper sticker on a Lamborghini or a Bentley or whatever.
But you can't put one on a Saturday.
The only thing I've ever come close to was getting my ear pierced. And I was really not feeling any pain, so to speak, but we couldn't find a place to do it. My one buddy who had his ear pierced, so you got to do this. You got to do this. And I, at this point, I'm like, yeah, man, it's cool. Yeah, get my ear pierced. Thank God we could not find I don't know, wherever they do ear piercings was not open. I have no tattoos. I have no piercings. You know, I'm just the all-American guy. I am who I am.
Daniela and I are not, but you are very pure, Art. Thank you.
Very pure. I'm very pure at heart. So remember, fans out there, if I win $1 million or Steve decides to sign me to a 4-year contract for, an average of 5.7 a year, God only knows why he would. But if he did, if you need something, come hit me up. Maybe I'll help you out. Maybe I can take care of you.
You can hit up Art. Daniela and I, don't be asking us for money. I'd be traveling the world. COVID.
You know what? Okay, I'll tell you what I would do. Seriously, now that you brought up travel, I would end up going. I would go to Greece. I would probably go to Greece because I have family there I've never saw. So I would definitely go to Greece. That's where I would go. I mean, Ireland and Germany, I'd hit them on the way back.
Knock all those stray cats in Greece. Build a cat castle for them in Greece. I get it. Okay, that's your final answer.
I would hang out with Stefanos Tsitsipas too, the tennis player,
and do that. Okay, that's what Art will do with his money. If no one got that, I'm telling us for 15 minutes. But I would travel the world. Daniela would get a boat, and God only knows what Art would do.
There you go. You wrapped it up in a nutshell. Great job, Carly.
And talking to Daniela to wrap this thing up because wow, that took a long time.
Yeah, this always gets to a point where it's just time to wrap, and that time is right now. Thank you, Carly.
It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money.
I really do.
I know.
Okay, you're going to lottery.
To AAA for presenting Let's Socialize. AAA says thank you with free roadside assistance for first responders and healthcare workers fighting to defeat COVID-19. You protect us by going to work every day. Let AAA protect you on the way there and back. And we have come to the end of another Word on Woodward presented by Rehmann. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you missed any of the show, you can catch all of our interviews on the Word on Woodward YouTube page, or you can listen to the show as a podcast on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, or Spotify. Again, that's the Word on Woodward YouTube page, or listen to it as a podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or Google Podcast. You can catch the Word on Woodward every Tuesday and Thursday. So the next show will be this coming Thursday at noon. And also, don't forget that Anthony Mantha will be live on Detroit Red Wings social media and DetroitRedWings.com with his press conference after signing a 4-year deal worth $5.7 million a year. Again, that's 5 p.m. on Red Wings social channels and RedWings.com. And of course, you guys, as I said earlier in the show, the most important message of the day, make sure you are getting out to the polls and casting your vote. I did mine right here in person this morning. It was safe. Everyone was social distancing, wearing masks. So get out there and cast your vote. It's very important. Again, thank you for tuning in today, and we'll see you on Thursday.